The baby scoop era, 1940–1970. America's hidden adoption scandal. Between 1945 and 1973, a quiet tragedy unfolded in the United States, one that would shape the lives of millions of women and their children. This period, known as the baby scoop era, saw over 1.5 million unmarried mothers coerced into surrendering their newborns for adoption. The cultural obsession with the ideal nuclear family, driven by conservative post-World War II values, stigmatized single motherhood to such an extent that these women had little choice but to comply. The impact of this era was profound, leaving a legacy of lifelong grief, unresolved trauma, and a crisis of identity for the children involved. For the mothers, the loss of their babies was a wound that never truly healed. Many were sent to maternity homes under the guise of care and support. But these institutions, including the Florence Crittenton Homes and homes run by religious organizations, operated as places of shame and isolation. There, young women were often forced into silence about their pregnancies, treated as though they had committed an unforgivable sin. After enduring labor alone, many were not even allowed to hold or see their newborns before adoption papers were thrust into their hands. In a 2012 interview, one survivor, Mary Slattery, described her experience. "I was just 18. My parents sent me away. I gave birth alone, and they told me I should be thankful my child would go to a good family. I cried every night for years after." Mary's story is far from unique. These women lived under the weight of societal judgment, unable to speak of their loss for fear of further shame. For the children, the era left scars that are still felt today. Adopted children often grew up with sealed birth records, a practice justified by the belief that anonymity was best for all parties. However, this policy left adoptees with a sense of incomplete identity. Some only discovered they were adopted later in life, unraveling their understanding of who they were and where they came from. In her memoir, Ann Fessler, author of The Girls Who Went Away, chronicled the stories of mothers and adoptees alike, highlighting the intergenerational pain caused by this era. One adoptee, John Carroll, spoke publicly about his journey to find his birth mother. "I felt like a piece of me was missing. I had questions no one could answer. Why did she give me up? Who was she?" It wasn't until I was 45 that I found her, and even then, I could see the pain in her eyes. The baby scoop era was sustained by a network of social workers, adoption agencies, religious institutions, and even hospitals, all complicit in maintaining the societal status quo. Presidents during this time, such as Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and John F. Kennedy, focused on promoting the American family ideal, although none directly addressed the hidden coercion that underpinned this system. Adoption agencies often framed their actions as altruistic, but the reality was much darker. The children were advertised as coming from good genes, perpetuating eugenic undertones that deemed single mothers unfit, while praising adoptive families for providing a better life. These agencies rarely considered the lifelong pain experienced by birth mothers or the identity struggles of adoptees. By the late 20th century, cracks began to form in the societal silence surrounding the baby scoop era. Grassroots organizations such as Concerned United Birth Parents (CUB) emerged in the 1970s, advocating for open adoption records and the rights of birth mothers. Personal testimonies, like those in Fessler's book or the documentary A Girl Like Her, have brought attention to the psychological scars inflicted during this time. Today, efforts continue to reunite families separated by this systemic injustice, but many questions remain unanswered. The baby scoop era is not just a historical footnote. It's a stark reminder of how societal norms and institutional power can perpetuate harm. Its lessons resonate today, urging us to confront the long shadows cast by forced adoptions and to honor the voices of those who lived through this dark chapter in American history.